Thank you.
2nd of May, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
To go. Let's see where was it that we left off in the middle of this? I think we yeah, right. So we basically got up to the point where we're now ready to hear. We established that we cannot avail ourselves of the svara of Rava to explain why there should be a shvua in the case of Rav. Who's we discussing here? Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia's case. Right. Because the reasoning that Rabbi Chia, the reasoning that Rava used to explain the Chiyuv Shvua Moda Mixus does not apply to the case that Reb Chia is discussing. And nevertheless, Reb Chia says that there's a Shvua also given to the defendant, even when he's a Kofar Akol. And according to Rava's Svara, he should be Chashid on Mammon, and therefore we should not allow him to make a Shvua because he's Chashid on Shvua, therefore. And therefore, we would have said that there should be no din shvua on such a person who's a kofar bakol. Why should we trust him? We already see the witness has already proved that the guy is a charlatan, right? He said, "Oh, I don't owe you any money. I don't even who are you anyway? I never saw you in my life." And then witnesses come along and they say, "Oh yes, we were there, and we know that we saw that he owes him half of the amount that the plaintiff is claiming." Okay, so you might think, well, let's see. Now it looks like we got two liars over here. we got a plaintiff who's trying to get twice as much out of this defendant as he's supposed to get, and we got the defendant who's for sure a cheat and a liar. And he says that he doesn't owe the guy any money. He's got two witnesses that say he does owe. So why should we give a shvua to such a guy? That's really the question that we have over here on the case that Rav Chia is talking about. Okay, so now let's proceed further in the Gemora. The Gemora is gonna, because Rav Chia is saying that it shouldn't be any. His case should be no less of a case where the defendant should be given a shvua, and he has a kal v'chomer to prove it. So now the Gemara is going to investigate what exactly is this kal v'chomer that Rav Chia says all about. Let's see how it works. Let's see if it really proves his point. So we're up to umay kal v'chomer. And we're on Gimel Amid base. And if you want to know exactly where we are in Gimel Amid base, let's see here. Yeah, we're just like 6 lines from the top. First word in the line is Kuf Mem Lamed, Kamash Malan. And we're going to read from Umay Kal V'chomer.
On 3B,
Everybody got the place?
3B1, left-hand column, last paragraph. The Gemara.
Very good. Okay. So Roy's got it. So Roy, please read for us.
Okay. The Gemara now presents Reb Chaya's Kal V'chomer. Umay Kal V'chomer, and what is the Kal V'chomer meant by Reb Chaya? Uma piv she'ain mahayevo mamon mahayevo shavua. if the admission of his own mouth, which cannot obligate him to pay money, nevertheless obligates him to take an oath, that is, where he admits part of the claim, Eidim Shemachayevim also Mammon no Din Shemachayevin also Shavua. Then witnesses who can obligate him to pay money, it is not certain that they would obligate him to take an oath. That is where they substantiate part of the claim that he denies. The Gemora challenges the premise which the Kal Vachomer is based. Ufiv ain Machayevo Mammon, but does the admission of his own mouth not obligate him to pay money? For Hadaas Baal Din Kamaya Aidin Domay. Why? We have a rule that the admission of a litigant is like the testimony of 100 witnesses. What do you mean then that when you say that one's admission cannot pay him money?
Mm-hmm.
The Gemara has an answer, but still.
Okay. Okay, so this is the Kal Vachomer. Piv, which is not Machayev Momen, and nevertheless, even though it's not Machayev Momen, it is Machayev Shvua. So Eidim is Machayev Momen. So therefore, we see that Eidim has a stronger koach to be Machayev the defendant to pay money. If so then we have a Kal Vachomer. That's what the Gemara means when it says Eino Din. Is it not the Din? Meaning, is it not a Kal Vachomer? All the more so that the Eidim should be able to be Machayev the defendant to make a Shvua. So that's the Kal Vachomer that we're talking about. And as Roy said, the Gemara challenges the first statement upon which the whole Kal Vachomer is based. The whole Kal Vachomer is based upon the fact that Piv is Kal in relation to Eidim. His admission is weaker, is the Kal in comparison to the witnesses. Why? Because his mouth cannot, with his admission of the defendant, it cannot be Machayev him to pay money, whereas witnesses can't be Machayev him to pay money. Gemora says, what do you mean his mouth cannot be Machayev him to pay money? Of course it can. That's a very, very well-known principle. Hodas Baal Din Kamei Eidim Dami. His admission in a case to a monetary obligation is just as strong as 100 witnesses testifying that he owes that monetary obligation. Okay, so do we have any Rashi to catch up with what we got so far? Piv Sheinu Machayev Momen. It's the second narrow line down from the four top wide lines.
Okay, Piv Sheinu Machayev money, his mouth, which doesn't make him Chayev money, the Hodata with his admission, and later we're going to explain it.
Right, because the Gemara is going to ask about this, and then we're going to answer that question. Then we're going to readjust, I guess, what was this first statement saying really. Okay, but in any case, we say though that his mouth could be Machayev Shvua. That's the next Rashi.
Next Rashi, Machayev, we make him Chayev of the Shvua al Hasha on the remaining amount.
The remaining amount that he did not admit to. Now we give him a shvua to swear in regard to that remaining amount. Okay, so every Kal V'chomer, it's got really 4 different parts to it. The first 2 parts are the parts of the case, and we're comparing 2 cases. We're comparing the case of the admission of the mouth to the second case, which is the case of witnesses. And we're comparing it in regard to we want to know what's the din in regard to the witnesses being able to be mechayev him in a shvua. We don't know what that din is. Rav Chia says he's got a Kal V'chomer to prove that there should be an obligation. And it's based upon the fact that he's demonstrating here that the mouth is the weaker case, weaker meaning that weaker in its ability to obligate the defendant, because we see that it's not able to be mechayev moment, whereas witnesses, edim, are. So that now establishes the case of edim as a relatively stronger mechayev than admission of the mouth. And we know it's an established din. We know that the admission of the mouth is mechayev shvua. That's the case of moda mixes, deraisa. So if so, that it does that, even though it's the weaker mechayev, all the more so, the stronger mechayev, the witnesses should be able to be mechayev a shvua as well. That's the whole basis of Rav Chia's Kal V'chomer. Okay, so now we got one more Rashi. Louis, you want to do the next Rashi? Hodas bal din kameya edim.
Okay, let's see if I can find it. Hodas.
Well, there were a few more Rashis before that. I stopped in the middle.
Isn't there one Adim?
Oh, yeah, right, you're right. The Edim Shemachayvin Oso Mammon.
All right, so I found the one that you said, but you're saying that's not the right one?
Right, we need the 2 before that.
Okay, so let's see.
1, 2, 3.
The Leica Lememar Hachi?
The third narrow line down. The middle of it.
Narrow line. Mechayvo Shevua?
Adim.
Edim, no, we're now focused on the Divrei Maslo Edim Shemachayvin Oso Mammon.
Okay. Edim Shemechayvin Oso Mammon. Witnesses that obligate somebody to pay money. Bima she'aedo, with what that they testified. So they testified that he owes money. If they testified that he owes money, then they can cause him to have to pay money.
Right. Seems like a pretty self-evident Rashi. I'm not sure what he's coming to say over there.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Eino din sheyichayvohu shavua. It's not the law that they can obligate him to swear. Al hashar, on the rest. It's not the law that they can, that those witnesses who testify he owes 50 can obligate him to swear on the other 50.
Okay, here you have to know that in the context of this Kal V'chomer, when we're saying over here Eino din, we mean it as a rhetorical question. Eino din, is it not the din? Because this is the fourth part of the Kal V'chomer. This is what we're trying to establish. through this Kal V'chomer that we've made, we now come to the fourth point of the Kal V'chomer, the last point, which is what we want to prove, and we say Eino Din in a rhetorical question. Is it not the din that they, meaning the witnesses, should also be able to be machayev him in a shvua?
Okay, and then Rashi clarifies that we're talking about a shavua on the remaining value.
Right, because he was a kofar bakol, the defendant, but the witnesses came along and said, "Oh no, we actually have edus that he owes half the amount." Okay, so in that case, Rav Chia is saying that there's according to this Kal V'chomer that he's constructed, those witnesses that were machayev him to pay half the amount, and he's going to be chayev to pay half the amount. Now, what about the rest of it? It's now the word of the plaintiff against the word of the defendant. And Rav Chia says, no, we're going to force the defendant to make a shvua that he doesn't owe that money. And if he's in the absence of doing that, he's going to be chayev to pay it. And we know that is a Kal V'chomer, says Rav Chia.
Okay, so the next Rashi is Hodas Baal Din Kama Edim.
Kameya Edim.
Kameya Edim. The admission of the defendant is like 100 witnesses.
Right.
Brisa, this is a Brisa. The Tosfos.
Tosefta.
But Tosefta, in the Tosefta, the Bava Metzia, in Bava Metzia, Perech Rishon. So this is just a reference.
Very interesting the way Rashi puts this. In other words, I thought that you've got such a thing as Mishnayos, right? And you've got such a thing as Toseftas, and you've got such a thing as Brises.
Right.
So what Rashi is saying over here is that really the truth of the matter is that, right, Mishnayos are Mishnayos, that we all know. They're the official halacha that the Rabbeinu HaKodesh has set up. All the and what's more, all the Tanoim and all the Amoraim know all of the Mishnayos back and forth, so you can't catch them on a Mishnah. But what usually they don't necessarily all know, because they're not part of the official Masorah, is a Brisa or a Tosefta. Here, what Rashi is telling us though is, if you would go out and buy a regular Gemora, not the Art Scroll Gemora, but if you would go out and buy a regular Gemora, you would find that in the back of the Gemora, there's a section over there called Tosefta. And that's an official compilation that's been organized by, I don't remember who right now, unfortunately, one of the Amoraim, one of the Amoraim, I believe. Maybe it's one of Tanoim. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's like an official. It's sort of official, like the Mishnayos. They officially made these unofficial brises in this compendium over here, and they call it Tosefta. So that's what Rashi's saying. Rashi's saying, you know what? What you see in the Tosefta, it's also really a brisa. What's brisa mean? The word brisa comes from the word Beis Reish Aleph, Bora, which means outside. It's outside the official recognized halacha that Rabbeinu HaKodesh put down when he organized and redacted the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. but since since the Chazal, they made some type of an official recognition of them, it could be that they're more authoritative and more well known amongst the Tanoim and Amoraim than an ordinary brisa, which is not part of the Tosefta. And that's what Rashi's saying over here. You should know that this is a brisa of the Tosefta, and you could find it officially arranged in Maseches Bava Metzia. You just look over there, and you will find it. We have it written down. They didn't have it written down, but they knew it. Okay, so that was just a interesting point.
I'm wondering about the word outside that you used. My understanding is that a brisa is true.
Of course, it's true. It's written. It was said over by Tanoim. Of course, it's true. Everything Tanoim say is true. But the question is, what happens when you got this Tana that says something which is true, and that Tana that says something which is true, and one says mutter and one says usher? So how do we do with that?
So in other words, if you have a tira between a brisa and a mishnah, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, but I mean, also, in addition to the fact that they don't always have the same opinion, they bring other opinions which oftentimes disagree with the opinions in the Mishnah. Other things, what they do is they don't necessarily disagree, but they what do you call it? Add on additional things that the Mishnah didn't say. Whether those additional things the Mishnah didn't say are simply explanations of the Mishnah, or there things that are contrary to what the Mishnah would imply. It depends. It's something like this and something like that, whatever. But the truth of the matter is sometimes we find that the Gemora Paskin's not like the Mishnah. They disagree with Rabbeinu HaKodesh. That was the koach of Ravina and Ravashi in Talmud Bavli. They could argue, not them, but they're just the news reporters. They're reporting that in the Olama yeshivas in Bavel that they didn't hold like Rebbe, and they're the later ones, and they could decide that the halacha is not like Rebbe said. Rebbe basically is saying this is the Mishnah, and this I hold is the halacha. And I put the brisa, I put the opinion in the brisa. It's not the halacha, but that doesn't obligate the Olama yeshivas to agree with Rebbe. They can argue. They most of the time they don't, but sometimes they do.
Uh-huh.
But this, of course, is when you have a machloikis between the Tanoim themselves. If all the Tanoim say one thing, I don't recall that the Amoraim say, "Oh no, we don't hold like that." In other words, they got a koach to be machriya between the Tanoim. They got to know what they can say what the halacha is. They have established principles. Halachas like Rabbi Kiva. Whenever anybody else argues with it, except if the majority argues with it, there's all sorts of rules. How to paskin, but sometimes they anyway. It's a whole subject.
Well, thank you. That helps a little bit. All right. So
Okay.
Am I going on, or have I caught up with the Rashi?
That we've caught up now. Now we go back to the Gemora, and the Gemora answers this challenge. We got a challenge now, because the first thing that the Kal V'chomer is made up out of is the saying that Piv is not Mechayev Mammon. And now the Gemara has challenged that. So how could you say that Piv is not Mechayev Mammon? Piv is certainly Mechayev Mammon. Hodas Baal Din Kamei Edim Dami. So now the Kal V'chomer has been called into question. So now Reb Chiya's got to explain himself now. What did he mean when he said that Piv is Eno Mechayev Mammon? So we're up to my Mammon. And that doesn't mean my money. It means which Mammon are we talking about when we say Mammon? Then we go back to Roy.
Okay. Gemora answers. My Mammon connotes. What money is meant here? Penalty money? According to Kal V'chomer, the argument runs, Umay Piv She'ein Machayevo Kanos Machavo Shavua. If the admission of his own mouth, which cannot obligate him to pay a penalty, nevertheless obligates him to take an oath where he admits part of the claim, Eidim Shemachayevin Arso Konos and Eino Din Shemachayevin Arso Shavua. Then two witnesses who can obligate him to pay a penalty, is it not certain that they obligate him to take an oath? That is, when they substantiate part of the claim that he denies.
Okay, let's see. We've got some Rashi over here. Hodas Baal Din. Oh no, we did that. Piv Eino Mechayvo Knas. So Phil.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. We did the 100 witnesses, and you say Piv Mechayev Knas. Yeah, okay, it's further up than I thought. Piv that doesn't chayev him of a penalty, a fine.
Right.
We learn Baba Kama Daf you cry from a pasuk, the mode b'knas a pata. If someone admits it, he's exempt from from a knas. Asher Yerushun, a pata, Asher Yerushun, that he is found guilty of, so to speak. Elohim, prat, exclude, Mershia et asmo, to someone who makes himself, admits it himself, tells himself that he did it.
Right. A person cannot make himself with his own admission in the absence of witnesses, because as we're talking about over here, all we have is the admission of the defendant. He can't make himself into a Russia by making an admission, and therefore the knas, which him being made a Russia would obligate him to pay, he's not going to pay. Not going to pay. So Moda B'Knas Pater. That's based upon this pasuk that Rashi is bringing from this Gemora. Asher Yarshiun Elohim. Over here, we're not talking about Hashem. We're talking about the judges. We call the judges Elohim. And it says in the pasuk that the judges found him to be a Rasha. Meaning to say that if the judges found it to be a Rasha, that means that they have accepted testimony on that proved that he was a ganav. Let's say, for example, a ganav involves the payment of a penalty because a gazlan only pays keren. He pays what he stole. He has to give it back. But a ganav who steals in stealth, he's got to pay kefil. What's he got to pay kefil for? That's what the Torah says. Not only does he pay the principal, but he also has to pay a penalty equal to the amount of the principal, and we call it kefil, double. He pays double a ganav. So that kefil payment is a knas. So if he himself admits that he was the ganav, but the witnesses were not making him into a ganav, he admitted. He came into Beis Din. He says he's a ganav. So he cannot make himself into a rasha. What could he do? With his admission, he could obligate himself to pay the principal amounts. Well, let's not get into that. Let's just say like this. The pasuk over here says prat. So why did it say Elohim? To exclude the case lemarshia es atzmo, where he makes himself into a rasha by admitting that he was a ganav. If he makes himself into a rasha by admitting that he was a ganav, then he will not pay the knas. He won't be chayav to pay the knas. And that's what we mean. That's what Reb Chia meant in this Kal V'chomer, in the first step of the Kal V'chomer, when he says that Hodas Piv is Eino Mechayev Momon. What Momon? The Momon which is Knas. Okay. And that's, oh, okay. So now we got a Kal V'chomer. Now we got a good Kal V'chomer. Because if we're talking about Knas, so then it's absolutely true that his piv is not able to be Machayev Knas. But if witnesses would come and they would say that we saw this guy Ganva from Ploni, so they're able to be Machayev Ploni to pay Kefo. And that would be the case of Asher Yarshiun Elohim, that the judges found that this person was a rasha, meaning that he was a ganav. Then he will have to pay kefil. So we see in regard to the din of knas that Hodas Piv is weak in its ability to be machayev yachasi in relation to edim, which does have the ability to be machayev him to pay a knas. And so therefore we proceed from there and we say if the Hodas Piv, if the admission of his mouth is able to nevertheless be Machayev him in a Shvuah, so then all the more so should witnesses be able to be Machayev him in a Shvuah. So therefore he is saying in the case at hand where he was a Kofar Akol, he says he doesn't know anything and witnesses come and say he owes half. So now according to Reb Chia, based upon this Kal V'chomer, we would say that he's got to swear al ashar. He's got to swear on the other 50, on the other half. That's the Kal V'chomer. Okay, now we go further in the Gemora. We got 4 minutes left, 5 minutes left. And we go to Ma'alefiv. And we go to Lud to read Ma'alefiv.
Let's see, Ma'alefiv. Shekain Mechayvo Karban. Okay, so what can we prove from admission of his mouth, which obligates him to bring an offering? Tomar be'edim she'ein machayvin oso. Can you say that the same about witnesses who do not obligate him to bring a chatas offering. So, what's it asking?
So what's the Gemara do? What?
I was just gonna say what you were gonna say. What's the Gemara doing? The Gemara is challenging. The Kol V'Chomer says witnesses can obligate him to pay a penalty. They certainly can obligate him to make an oath.
Because we see from the din of Knas that the koach of witnesses is stronger than the koach of the piv.
Right.
That we're using that din of Knas to prove the kal v'chomer relationship between piv and edim. On that, the Gemara is doing what we call asking a pircha. We're trying to refute the kal v'chomer, because now we got a different din, and we see from this other din of korban that no, the koach of the witnesses is not even as strong as the koach of the mouth in regard to being machayev a korban. So we see punkt fakert from what we saw in the case of Knas.
So if you want to say that the power of the mouth is greater than the power of the witnesses, you've got to show that it's true in all cases. So now the Gemara is going to bring up a case where it's not true. And that is that the mouth obligates him to bring a chatas offering, but witnesses do not obligate to bring a chatas offering. Therefore, witnesses are not as strong as the mouth. So you can't say that just as the mouth does something, then the witnesses can also do something, because they're not necessarily stronger than the mouth.
Right. In order, kal v'chomer, correct. Kal v'chomer has to be. We can only say that the din exists as a kal v'chomer by the edim if we show in every single din that there is in the whole Torah that edim are stronger of a machayev than the piv. If we got one case, just 1 out of 100, where we see that piv is stronger than edim, so then we have taken down the kal v'chomer, and now we can no longer say that we got a kal v'chomer, because maybe the reason why the reason why the piv is able to be mechayev shvua is because of that one instance in which we see that the piv is stronger than the edim, and therefore we cannot conclude that the case of edim would certainly be mechayev a shvua. Okay, so and here we have it. That's what the Gemara is doing over here. Here we got a case where the mouth is stronger than the edim. In the case of korban. Okay.
Okay, that's better. Shabbat shalom. Take care.
Shabbat shalom, Phil.
See you tomorrow.
Ezrat Hashem. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. All the best, Roy. All the best, Lou.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom to Phil.
See you.
Shalom.
Very well.